Welcome to a somewhat different series of Unconventional. This time around, we're at GRIMMFEST for an online interview special. GRIMMFEST is an annual horror film festival based in Manchester, showing some of the best scary movies and short films of that year. So, thanks for tuning in. Over to you, Kieran.
Thank you, Fran. Here I'm joined by some of the cast and crew of The Unhealer, a film in which a teenage boy gains superpowers and decides to use them to go out for revenge against some bullies that have tormented him his entire life. Let's jump into it. First of all, hi, I'm Kieran. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
First question, which I've been asking everyone that I've seen this week, which is a surprisingly tough one, is what was the inspiration behind this film?
Well, I am one of the writers. We wanted to write a horror movie that we could raise money for, which is much easier to raise money for than a drama or a comedy, because you usually have to have a big star. So that was in the back of our heads. And my writing partner read a couple articles. One of them was like a Dear Abby article. And it was, the woman wrote in and said, am I going to gain weight if I eat crayons every week? So she would eat a box of like 60 crayons a couple times a week. So that was one inspiration. Then he looked it up and found out it was called pica. And then the other one was about a young girl that couldn't feel any pain. No matter what, poke her or whatever, she couldn't feel pain. So those two things kind of got in his head, and he put it together into a kind of a bullying revenge story. That's where we got the inspiration.
For those of you who joined later on, what was it about the script that drew you in? What made you think, I really want to be a part of this film?
For me, when I first read it, something that just jumped out at me was obviously like the power that, Kelly has, about how when someone would hurt him, what would happen to him happens to them instead, and he's totally fine. To me, that was so cool and unique. And I'm a big comic book fan, but I'd never seen that before. And I just thought that was really cool and special. And then on top of just how great of a character, piece it is with Kelly, and how it steps through how someone who you could really see making those choices that you agree with, but then ultimately he ends up with the wrong choice. And I just thought that was really interesting. Well done.
What about Kayla?
Yeah, same thing. I thought it was a super, super unique storyline that I hadn't read something like that before. And I also think it kind of brings up some social issues as well of especially since Kelly is somebody who gets bullied a lot in school, it kind of makes us think what would that be like if it was reversed onto us? And that's a big point that the film brings up in particular. So along with being a cool unique thriller film, it also has some heart to it and definitely has some stuff that makes you think about the way you treat other people, which I think is super important.
Totally.
I was just going to say, obviously Sean and I are related. We're siblings, so I got to read a lot of the versions. I had no choice. No. But we read it. We went through a lot of versions for quite a few years, and as the story continued to develop, as Sean and Kevin rewrote, it just became so special that once again I'd never seen or read anything like it. I think for me, the bullying certainly, and the revenge, the bullying, and trying to figure out the abuses of power, which was so prevalent, and when do you change from good to bad? And I think that's throughout, what's the right thing to do? How far can you go until you cross the line? So anyway, I thought it'd be so much fun to do, and it was. I think they can all attest to that. I hope, for me, it was a blast.
Great. Gavin?
So I think for me, I'm gonna have to agree with everyone. It was really about the bullying, the lessons that it has to teach. Just the movie in general is very, I think that when movies are trying to speak up on an issue like that, it means so much more and is so much more impactful. I mean, regardless of the storyline, it's really trying to put a message in your head being like, this is what bullying can cause, and this is what the victims go through in their heads probably. And it's like with Kelly, he had the option between doing something good with it or doing something bad, and in the end he ended up doing the wrong choice. And it's just interesting to see that kind of unfold as the story goes out, just what bullying can really do to someone. So I thought that was interesting.
And Martine, what brought you on board?
Well, it's sort of a combination of all the things that everybody's mentioned here today. For me, it was also, it felt very personal. It felt like it was something that was based on a true story, and there was something internal about it. And in this particular genre, which this one is sort of a hybrid, it felt that it would be, from a directorial perspective, it would be an opportunity to do something that combines genres that I hadn't done before. I mean, I had done psychological thrillers, and I was always a fan of the psychological thriller and also of the supernatural thriller or the horror thriller. And I felt that it had ultimately, which a lot of films don't have, this one had a beginning, middle, and an end, and ultimately some sort of a message that could be encapsulated in a timeless element, you know, that's will always be relevant, because we always, as you know, Gavin was saying, and the rest of everybody else was saying too, that we all experience this somewhere along the way in life. So I thought it was identifiable. Other than obviously the uniqueness, I was always a fan. The minute I read it, and I said, "Oh wow, reverse pain, boom! You know, that's awesome." And we didn't want to make that. You know, Sean and I, working closely together when we were developing the script, didn't want to make that. You know, we didn't want to take advantage of that and just exploit it. We wanted to place it in the right spots during the arc of the story and the arc of the characters. And I also found that it would be a challenge to make. So I was attracted to all of that.
So when it comes to the whole kind of superhero genre that you were sort of making a twist on here, I think one thing I'd say I really liked about it was Kelly was really set up to be a hero. You know, the one scene that stuck with me was when he's there with his mum, and he's got all those little bits of paper lying down saying like firefighter and soldier and that kind of thing. And there's a concept within comics that's been around for a while, the one bad day scenario. And this film really, really highlights that, the fact that we've taken this kid who is so clearly, it seems, destined to be a hero, and then turning them into a villain with that whole one bad day thing. In terms of messages you're trying to get out to the audience, was that a part of it, and how do you want them to relate to that in real life?
I think we all can see that in ourselves, and I think that's what's so powerful. To Martine's point, is it does become personal at that point, because you do have to make choices, and we all have those times that we regret we've made whatever decision we have. So I think that's definitely something that is throughout the film, and we wanted to highlight. Sean, go ahead as a writer.
I like that Kelly never got a break. Every time he got a break, it was taken away from him. And that just sets you up for a really sympathetic character. So that was kind of the reason. And then he didn't really, except for the Tucker character, he didn't really kill anybody. He just provoked other people to kill him, and then they would, you know, die. So that set up for the sympathetic character as well. But yeah, exactly why we did the post-it notes is to show that he's going to do these wonderful things he never got to do. Tragedy, you know?
And I think, to elaborate a little bit more, one of the things that we talked a lot about is like the eye for an eye. You know, as you're doing everything to somebody, this is such a fun way to get it back. You know, you're watching a movie, so it's not real, but you're inflicting something on somebody else, and the justice comes straight back at you. I mean, there's nothing, you know, I'm not a terrible human being, but I really love that element. I love that revenge factor. Because when have we not had that moment where somebody's just a terrible human being to you and you just want to do all these things, and Kelly gets to do those things. So good or bad, you're still rooting for him.
Yeah, and to touch on what you guys are saying, that's what I really enjoyed about the character that Sean and everyone wrote about Kelly, was that each choice had elements that you agreed with. Like, okay, yes, you do that because that would make sense. But then as he progressed along his choices, he just started taking it into his own hands and started, it started getting warped along each choice until at some point, as the audience, you realize, oh, you've gone too far, even though you were with him each one. And that's what I really enjoyed about playing Kelly, was that I never saw him as a bad guy. I never played him as a bad guy or making wrong choices. Each choice seemed like the right thing to do. But it just kind of explores what happens when you push someone that far and then they take matters into their own hands. It goes very wrong.
I think you're totally right there. Like, to play him as a villain, I don't think would have worked at all. He's got motivations. It's a sort of ends justifying the means kind of thing. I absolutely think that the film benefited from you playing it that way. So for someone who watched it, thank you. In terms of his powers, with any kind of superpower, you've got to have very clear-cut rules for it. Otherwise, you're going to have dozens of people picking it apart on the internet and that kind of thing. When it came to coming up with those powers and those rules and then making the film, did you ever find yourself in a situation where you thought, well, hang on, we can't have Kelly do that, because if Kelly does that, then that classmate's head is going to explode, or something like that? Something where you had to go back over a scene because you suddenly realized those pesky powers were in the way.
Yeah, Martine and I talked about it quite a bit. We, one of the original drafts, he actually had another power. And we realized that power was better than all the other powers. And so why would he even use the eating power, or why would he, so we had to get rid of that one because it got in the way of the storyline and making it believable. You can't wish away somebody and they disappear and then also, drill their knee. I mean, you would just wish them away. So yeah, it did get in the way, and we also had to think about the rules, like you said. You kind of want to set up the rules right away, or you're doing like a Greatest American Hero kind of thing where he doesn't have the book to learn, which is very clever in his own way. So we wanted to set up the two powers, or depends on how you count them, the three powers early. So we didn't have the audience going, oh, you're cheating, he can't do that kind of thing. So it was a challenge.
Now, I'm just wondering what everyone's favorite sequence was to film.
Oh, I feel like I can't answer this one.
Yeah. So for me, there's a scene in the movie, and I can say this because it's not spoiler, but like I get shot in the chest, with a very powerful shotgun. And the force is so great that I go flying back like 20 feet. And on set, they rigged me up with this big like stunt contraption and, exploding blood out of the chest. And I flew, and I love doing stunts. So that was a real joy.
Was that a single take, or did you get to do it a few times?
We did it twice, I think.
Oh, did we?
I think we did it twice.
Okay, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was terrifying. Like, that was real fear. That wasn't acting. I was slightly
no acting at all. We see the whites of our eyes. Our eyes go huge. No acting.
Yeah, I think probably one of the most favorite parts. It's a little bit in the trailer, so I guess I can there's a fight scene between me and Kelly, and I'm trying not to spoil it. I'm trying to like skirt around it, but basically it was really cool to film because I've never done a fight scene or anything like that, and to see all of the little things you had to do in order to have that fight scene look realistic. And I remember like I actually had the blood in my hands while I was punching him, and then when it hit me, I had to go back and actually apply it on myself in this one big master take. And I was like, wow, like that was such a small thing that you would never think that would be difficult. And it turned out to be like one of the most fun shots for me to film. But it was a blast. I loved fighting you, Elijah. It was great.
Hey, likewise.
Yeah, Martine did a really good job blocking that whole scene. That was our first day of shooting too.
I was going to say, we weren't gentle on you, Gavin. We put you right up and Elijah on the first day.
Yeah, you threw me to the wolves. It was fun.
Hey, but you guys brought it. It was great. Sorry.
You're good. I was gonna say I really enjoyed like all the scenes on the football field, especially when Elijah had the drill in his knee, because he's just like walking around with the drill. It's very trippy. It's like cool to see. Like I feel like you watch movies and you're like, how did they do that? So it's like really cool to be able to see like how we were able to shoot that and make it look realistic and stuff.
You know, I will say that particular scene, you know, Kayla, if you remember, and Elijah and both of you, the two of you had this incredible chemistry at the audition. It was just one of those things where we knew that you were perfect together for this film. And that came in really handy shooting that scene on the football field because we were running out of sunlight. And if you could have shot at, you know, what was going on with the crew from above, you'd see like, it was like, we were just like a group of ants moving across the field, chasing the sun to make sure we could get this shot in. And our DP was putting up, you know, reflectors and the camera operator was running. And we were like, well, no, shoot over there in that corner. Wait, there's a shadow over here, go there. And somehow right before the sun went, you know, set, we were able to get that scene. That also happened when the sun was rising, when we were doing it, one of the overnights. Yeah. Desert. We were just trying to get the shot in before the sun came up, and we were doing the same thing. You know, it's a good lesson to learn that if you're on an independent film and you need to move quickly, just pretend the sun's going down, and you'll get it all in.
Yeah, that was an incredible day. I can't believe we got all the shots in. I remember at one point we're like, oh, we'll have to shoot it tomorrow, and we're like, yeah, but then what do we cut out tomorrow? You know, once you get in that snowball. You start running out of time.
I think that's one of the greatest accomplishments of the movie is that we were able to capture the true intent of the characters and of the theme, and it was done with this incredibly deeply spirited collaborative ensemble. I mean, everybody worked so well together. That was the most unique thing about it is that it would have been impossible to do this, and it felt impossible before we started the first day, and somehow in a short amount of time, I don't even remember how many days we shot, Sean.
18 days.
18 days. Well, there you go. It doesn't make any sense to be able to pull
so
that
many
off.
so many moves and so many stunts.
And so many effects and so many locations, because a lot of the effects were done, and I don't know if this is part of the you know, your planned questions, but a lot of the effects were done on set. It was done, you know, in practical, and in other instances, it was very challenging for the actors to have to actually, you know, feel as if that effect was happening at the moment that we were shooting. I mean, that was the case for you, Elijah, in the final cemetery sequence.
Yeah.
You know, you were in that grave, and we just sort of described to you, like it said in the script, this is what's going to be happening. Mm. And you had to imagine that, but we didn't even know what it was going to end up being. You know, maybe Sean, you can talk a little bit about this, and you know, Elijah, you can talk about the process of, as an actor, of what you envisioned. But then Sean, in post, the visual effects kind of almost adapted to what Elijah had done as opposed to what it was originally written.
That's true.
Yeah, like you were saying, Martine, with that shot, I mean, you guys described it to me and explained to me like what was happening, but that was a really fun scene as an actor, because I kind of got to play around with like the timing of that. When does that happen? You know, does that hit you suddenly, or does it kind of creep up? And then I was just able to have fun and go to town, experiencing those things and feeling them as I would in that moment. And like you said, you guys then made the special effects and post match it so perfectly, that it felt really organic to me at that moment. It was really nice.
By the way, my favorite scene, for some reason, it changes every time I watch the movie. So I wouldn't be able to do that question justice. However, I will say that, without ruining it for anybody who hasn't seen it, that there's something about the ending. From the moment that Kelly's character leaves us, and then we're inside that ambulance, and what happens in that ambulance. Because the way we shot the sequence in the ambulance with Kayla, I don't think we quite planned the dynamics of what was going to happen in there, and that really feels very perfect. There are other moments in the movie that also feel the way that we had originally envisioned, or maybe Sean, the way that you had originally envisioned it when you wrote it, which is always the goal is to capture the true intent of what you envisioned when you first wrote it. But I think that ending has that feeling to it.
It was a lot of fun. My writing partner Kevin, his favorite sequences are at the very end too. He loves that stuff, and I know that's Kayla's favorite part.
For sure. It was fun. I think it opens a lot of doors to different possibilities. I think that's what I would say about the ending.
Okay, so this one's sort of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke question, but one thing that certainly drew me in with this film is you've got two of horror's greats in this film with Natasha and Lance. Who do you think would win in a fight, Xenomorph or Natasha's character from Species?
Oh, Species.
That was very quick off the mark.
I'd put my money on the Xenomorph. I mean, I'm just saying.
I mean, did this ever come up on set?
No.
No?
Not that we're aware of.
You didn't ever bump into them saying, "Yeah, well, my alien's better than your alien"?
That's a good idea for that might be a good idea for our next film.
Yeah.
There you go. Alien versus
Absolutely.
alien.
Alien versus Species. Yeah.
Alien Wars.
Yeah.
I tell you, I always get nervous about asking something to an actor that's been asked the same kind of questions for probably 30 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to not get in those conversations. I mean, I don't want the first date for either one of them to go, "Oh, this guy's going to ask me all this." Of course, they never did. They were the nicest people in the world, but I was a little nervous about getting involved in any kind of negative talk.
No,
So what you're saying is that was a question you would have asked if we had a choice.
Oh yeah, there would have been a lot of questions.
Oh,
It's like, now that it's over, maybe I'll ask.
There you go.
we've joked about it a bit, but there's definite sequel potential here. Are there any plans for a sequel?
Yeah, we're working on it now. Me and my writing partner we're actually working on a trilogy. So we're working on two at the same time.
Sequel, prequel.
Yeah.
Sequel, prequel, amazing.
Sequel, prequel. Yeah. We wanted.
Sean, I could picture a scene where this bizarre beast shows up, and it looks exactly like the lamp that's behind your head.
Yeah.
My 70s lamper. Yeah. No, but yeah, we are definitely working on it. Very excited about it. Hopefully we can start shooting this spring. I mean, with COVID, it's hard to say what we're going to be able to do. I think the independent world's got a lot more challenges in the fact we don't have the money to do all the things that right now we have to do.
So that's all the questions I've got for you guys. Unless there's anything you want to say about the film to our audience.
Yeah, I think we
It was a
covered
pleasure.
Yeah, it was so nice. Thank you for your time. I love the background. I would like all of this stuff in your room.
And one thing I will say is the cast and the crew on this, as you can see, was so much fun. And they always say, "Oh, it's like having your family and it's like being a family." Well, we literally had family from just about everybody on the set. We had kids there, we had parents there, we had siblings there. So it was truly a fun family, tight-knit group. So I can't wait for the sequel and prequel. And hopefully you'll be seeing a lot of the people that you're seeing right now, but I'm not going to give anything away.
Yeah, we had a great time. It was like Christy was saying, like you're like a family because you're literally with these people every day, all day, and then you go back to the hotel and we'd go play soccer and.
Oh my God, I know. I think the funniest part was just being on the overnight shots where like we were all so delirious.
So much coffee was consumed. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. We were on the bus just talking about either there's two types of people on the bus back to the hotel at 6 a.m. There was some people that were like super hype and just completely delirious off the rocker. And then there was some completely passed out, like nothing could wake them up. And it was really funny to see the two types of people on the bus. You're like, all right, yeah. This is
Yeah.
By the way, it's important for you to know that it was on an average between 112 and 124 degrees every day, even at night.
It was so hot.
Which actually contributed in a bizarre way to the intensity of it and you know everything that when it comes off the screen, you can really sense that kind of energy.
And the camaraderie it creates, just boiling that together.
It was a blast.
Everyone
really
boiling
a lot
together.
of fun.
Great time.
Yeah.
Sean and I, we were joking that we might be awarded an award for the sweatiest movie ever filmed.
I had this like gray sweatshirt on like the second half of the movie and I kept like sweating through it. I was like, you need to like hang it up and dry it off every few days.
Yeah. Most of the behind the scene pictures I'm just drenched the whole time. So I can't use any of them.
Everybody's got blue rags, to keep them cool. And so a lot of our shots you'll see behind the scene, everybody's got a blue rag around their neck,
So maybe for the sequel, it's shot a bit further north.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Winter.
Winter.
Make that happen, Sean.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking with me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Great.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best with the film and with the sequel prequel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.